Let's move on now. China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi will be visiting the U.S. from the 26th to the 28th of October. It will be Wang Yi's first trip to the U.S. since 2017. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken will be hosting his Chinese counterpart. The visit comes in the backdrop of the U.S. urging China to use its relationship with nations in the Middle East to stop the Hamas-Israel conflict from spilling over into other nations. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken spoke to his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi in the second week of October regarding the situation in the Gaza Strip. The move is also seen as U.S. acknowledgement of China's influence in the region. Meanwhile, according to Chinese state media, Wang Yi spoke to his Israeli counterpart Eli Cohen over the phone on Tuesday. He said China will do its utmost when it comes to contributing to Palestinian-Israeli reconciliation. Wang Yi further told Eli Cohen that China will firmly support any resolution as long as it is conducive to peace. He termed the ongoing conflict as a major choice between war and peace. Wang Yi has declared that Israel's actions are beyond the scope of self-defense. He further said, and I quote, "All countries have the right to self-defense, but they should abide by international humanitarian law and protect the safety of civilians." Wang Yi also denounced Israel for going beyond self-defense and called for an end to collective punishment of the Gazan people. Recently, China's top diplomat has intensified the rhetoric around Beijing's preferred outcome of a two-state solution. The visit comes as America has been increasingly drawn into the Israel-Hamas war. American troops have been victims of a series of drone attacks. Since Wednesday, at least 5 rocket and drone attacks have targeted 3 Iraqi military bases where American troops are stationed. Ties between Washington and Beijing have become increasingly complicated since 2018. This trip is part of the ongoing efforts by the two nations to repair the strained ties amid rising geopolitical criticism. Wang Yi is also expected to meet President Joe Biden's National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan during his 3-day visit. Wang Yi's trip takes place 3 weeks ahead of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit in San Francisco. Beijing is yet to confirm if Xi Jinping will attend the annual APEC summit. The outcome of Wang Yi's upcoming trip could set the tone for a potential meeting between President Biden and Xi Jinping next month.
Sorry to keep you waiting. There's a lot going on.
We're now being joined by Dr. Lyle Goldstein, who is an expert on Chinese diplomacy and military affairs. He is concurrently Director for Asia Engagement at Defense Priorities, a Washington, D.C. think tank. Dr. Lyle, thank you very much for making time for us and welcome to WION The World is One. What do you make of Wang Yi's trip to America?
Well, it's certainly very timely. I mean, I'm always advocating for more and more engagement between senior U.S. and Chinese officials. So I view this as very positive. Of course, it would be really great if this does help to smooth the way for Xi Jinping's visit to the APEC summit in San Francisco. But you know, as you've been talking, that there's plenty of things on the agenda. You know, now the Middle East conflict, of course. So we'll see if the U.S. and China can manage to work together on some of these things. I would certainly like to see that.
Dr. Lyle, very quick question. Do you think China could be a potential mediator in this crisis in Israel and Hamas?
Mm-hmm. Well, yes, I do. I think that China, you know, has very studiously sort of guarded a kind of pretty even-handed approach. It does have quite good relations with Israel, but it also maintains good relations really throughout the whole Middle East, and its influence has been growing by leaps and bounds, really. And let's not forget that major breakthrough that it achieved between Saudi Arabia and Iran back in the spring, which was really, you know, took many by surprise, but was really quite astounding given the very deep bitterness that had been prevailing for the last decade between those powers. So yeah, I don't think it's, I don't think, it's crazy to consider China as a mediator. These things take a lot of time, and many have wanted to see China step up as a mediator on the Ukraine issue. We haven't seen much successful Chinese diplomacy there, but I would like to see more and more. But to me, this crisis in the Middle East brings home the what a fractured world we live in, and if the great powers are at odds on so many issues, it's very hard for them to cooperate when they need to in a bloody crisis like this.
Dr. Lyle, China just announced a 1 trillion yuan sovereign bond issuance. That's about 135 billion US dollars. Experts are saying that the move is an attempt to shore up the economy after a sluggish post-COVID recovery. Who can save China? Can US do it?
Well, I wouldn't really put it that way. I think there's a lot of mixed data all over the place. It's true. I think the Chinese economy is due kind of for a shakeout. It has been for a while. That happens in modern capitalist economies, and China's sort of been putting that off for a while. But still, I'm not altogether pessimistic here. China has enormous trading relations. I mean, we were talking about the Middle East, for example. It's amazing. They're doing hundreds of billions of dollars of business there. And in other parts of the world. So, I do think the Western press has probably exaggerated China's economic circumstances, which may not be completely wonderful, but they're also, they have many things in their favor. Just to take the electric car market, for an example, they seem to be dominating in the global production of advanced batteries. So, I mean, it's hard to say that they are in really terrible circumstances.
All right. Dr. Lyle Goldstein, thank you very much for making time for us and for talking to WION World is One today.
Always glad to join you. Thank you.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.